All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to cover today. I'd like to introduce our speakers, Greg Williams, Director of Product Management at Paramount Communication Group, and Ben Ivers, Client Solutions Manager here at Mapp. All right, Ben, over to you. What can you tell us about Mapp?
Hello, everyone. So I want to introduce, first of all, Mapp to the audience. Here at Mapp, our mission really is to empower marketers and brands to break away from the pack. So we're able to do that for our nearly 2,500 plus customers through our global structure as a business. We have 8 offices across the globe and over 300 employees. And with Mapp, it's all about giving the marketers the control to be able to have their brands really excel. So back earlier this year, we released the Mapp Empower suite, which is a result of a technology that we've had over the last 19 years as a business. And Mapp Empower is really a marketing platform that's designed for digital agencies and consulting firms. We're really hoping to give the control, the power to any agency that wants to work with Mapp by giving this tool that has a very low setup time and is able to have the self-provisioning of accounts, is easy to use, but also allows for sophisticated campaigns and sophisticated emails to be created. So one of the great things about this tool, about Mapp Empower, is that you can combine customer acquisition with your engagement campaigns, and that's done through our Mapp Acquire tool, which is our data management platform. This would allow you to use things like web behavior to influence your email programs. For agencies, this is a great tool because it has a very flexible API library that can allow you to control a lot of the functionality within the tool through those APIs. The tool can also really be your own platform. You can present it as your own because it's a tool that can be white labeled. And then Greg here is going to talk in just a second about some of the great features on both the agency side and on the platform itself. But it's really about being able to give the agencies control to create very sophisticated email marketing programs with ease. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Greg, who has been working with this tool in its many iterations over the last almost 15 years. So Greg, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben, and welcome all. Thanks, Tammy, too, for helping coordinate here. A little bit about Paramount Communication Group. Since 2000, well, for starters, we are a relatively small team in compared to Mapp anyway. We are a remotely hosted team. There are of about 10 of us, plus a few offsite development resources. Since 2005, Paramount has been helping our customers who really run the gamut. They are publishers, associations, nonprofits, campaigns, political consultants, and I think mainly our agency reseller partners to use email, social media, digital strategies, et cetera, to reach out to their constituents. We work with all sorts of customers across our user spectrum, from non-technical mom and pops to full service digital marketing agencies. And across the board, our primary channel for all of those customers is Mapp's Empower platform, and especially the reseller features that enable us to do what we do. Mapp Empower literally powers our company and sort of what we have to offer our customers. For those customers, Mapp is able to provide lead generation, email broadcasts, transactional messages, conversion tracking, campaign automation, data segmentation, and a whole lot more. And then for us resellers, Empower allows us to white label a state-of-the-art communication platform, email platform under our own brand and heading. It allows us to centrally manage all of our accounts. It gives us a single sign-on to access accounts' monthly usage data or templates or support, et cetera, et cetera. And those are a bunch of pieces that we want to look at today in making the case for Empower as a reseller tool. A little bit by the numbers for us at Paramount, and I think we have some numbers to brag on. So Paramount we have a number of direct customers and also resellers, something like half and half, where we're supporting both. Resellers generally manage their accounts, and we'll manage our own accounts directly. And of course, we reach out to support all those reseller users as well. But across that network of reseller agency partners, we send on average about 500 million emails each month. And we are very active in the US political space. And in October and November of 2016, during the ramp up to the presidential elections, we sent over 1 billion emails during those months. So we certainly have the experience and have the customer base to talk to the platform. Those are 20 or so resellers, and our resellers, again, represent a broad array of customer types. They're marketing consultants, data brokers, political agencies, then some local and federal government offices. Across those resellers, we have about 2,000 accounts. Those accounts, direct users, are political campaigns, they're resellers, they're small local businesses, they're publishers, they're newsletter publishers, nonprofits, associations, et cetera. Again, about 500 million average monthly emails, and we've sent 30 billion emails since 2013. And that was just sort of back of the envelope looking at some data usage reports. I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of those agency reseller partners that we have at Paramount came to us as direct users. So they came to us as customers who were perhaps managing a few customer email lists, and their businesses grew. And as part of their growing businesses, they decided to get their own whitelisted reseller platform, and in some cases have white labeled and branded as themselves. And I think that speaks to professional services, because as a reseller, we rely on more than just our customers' outbound email for our income. The successful reseller does a lot more than just land new accounts. The reseller model leaves a lot of room for what I think of as the ancillary services side hustle. It's all the stuff surrounding those outbound emails that we do to support our customers, but also to augment income and to increase our billable hours, et cetera. Client onboarding, there's lots of opportunity there to upsell additional features. We can upsell account features, which is something we'll look at. Setting up domains properly, or DMARC monitoring, data integration like imports, and just sort of an initial data sync as new customers come on board, but also to automate imports, to build webhooks that capture data from their CMS. We do a lot of work in the website tools and templates space. So, that can be everything from actually building out whole websites to just working on landing pages or preferences pages, maybe working on newsletter templates and the rendering tests that would accompany those initial designs. We'll look at some content uploader and visual template uploaders, template work that we could always upsell for. And of course, like website and CMS integration, working with WordPress, et cetera. Some of our customers, number 3 here, broadcast management. For a number of our customers, we're just full service. We do it all, from managing their creative to scheduling the sends and helping them to segment their lists, et cetera. And then also under broadcast management, you could think about delivery services, which might be sort of additional help in keeping an eye on deliverability and helping customers work through any delivery challenges they might run into. We'll look a lot at campaign automation because it's a big part of our platform. Stuff like welcome series emails or conversion series, renewal campaigns, or RSS-powered newsletters. And then there's the list hygiene and data append space, which has been pretty successful for us, where we might work with third-party platforms for email validation or data appends, working from a postal list to append emails, or even just appending additional data onto an email list, like demographic data or income information, or even if those users have been opening emails elsewhere on the internet. Those are options that are available through big data these days. So there's lots of ways to diversify, and the successful reseller does it well, I think, or I'd hope. One section here just to sort of get everybody's attention. We have a top secret section. So if you don't have top secret clearance, please avert your eyes. But one thing that I wanted to share, a little top secret insider information, is about WordPress plugins. So anybody who is already an Empower user might find this helpful. There is one plugin in particular that I have found very helpful, and it is actually called Forms Third-Party Integration, which is a bizarre name for a plugin, but it does a very good job at extending popular plugins like Contact Form 7 or Gravity Forms or Ninja Forms to our Empower platform. It can take sort of all of the data that gets received by those forms and push it over to us in real time. I wish I had found it earlier, and it really works like a charm. So,
you just use that for subscriptions, or are you using that for transactional messages as well?
Mainly for subscriptions. It can be used for transactional messages, though I think that we've built a little API middleware that allows us to trigger transactional messages through a single form post.
Okay.
We largely use it then essentially for sign-up forms, landing pages where data acquisition, where we're just looking to add names to the file. Great. It's worth taking a look at, and if anybody has questions about any of this, feel free to. We'll give you my email at the end of the call. Okay, so then let's hop into some reseller features. So these are some of, in my mind, the top level differentiators that really make the Empower platform stand out from other email service providers, specifically in this reseller space. Like, what does becoming a reseller get us? And the 30,000-foot view, three quick things are the white label agency dashboard, right? So we are able to completely brand the platform as our own, with really with no mention of Mapp. We always present Mapp as our technology provider. We don't hide that fact anywhere, but the Paramount platform is perceived by our customers and spun by us as our platform. And we like to think that partially it is. We have the ability to easily switch between accounts, as I mentioned. We'll take a look at some of those, and also, of course, to export usage data on a monthly basis. Some of the other things we can do from within the agency dashboard, that's where we're going to create new accounts. We'll modify existing customers. We can whitelist IP addresses for users, access marketing and support collateral, etc. So let's take a look at some of those. So within the platform here, sort of three very obvious whitelist pieces. Number one is that the domain is our domain. It's paracom.paramountcommunication.com. So we have the option upon signing up as a reseller to establish your own CNAME, CNAME of your choice, your domain. It could even be its own domain. and that's where the user goes to log in. So they're not going to Mapp to log in, they're coming to Paramount to log into their account. The interface itself is branded with our logos, etc., and our name pops up where it should. And then from within the user platform itself, this is the user dashboard, where again we have our news over in the right-hand side here. In addition to their dashboard, we'd also have the ability to insert our own RSS fed news in here, maybe headlines from our blog, etc., if that's something we wanted to share, or release notes from Mapp could show up there as well. A couple more white label pieces. This one over on the bottom left is probably the most powerful, in our opinion anyway. This is the branding that shows up in the footer of the messages that get sent. A lot of our business is word of mouth, and this is where a lot of that word of mouth comes from. As a marketer, you'll find yourself looking to see how other people are sending their emails, especially when those emails are landing in your inbox. You're very apt to look and try and figure out who are they using to send. And this Paramount box that shows up in the bottom left-hand corner of outbound messages drives a lot of traffic to us. Some users will opt out of this. They'll ask us to disable that. And of course we can, or we could as an upsell too. That's always, there's a discussion to be had there with customers. So that's one piece, but it's a biggie. You'll see here that our click-through URLs all use the Paramount domain. So all the click-through and image resources that the users are loading into their creative or that are used for click counting from their creative will look like our domain. And then this piece that I showed you in the dashboard that shows up in each of the users' user interface can be customized as well.
Yeah, I really like the powered by logo, because that's essentially free advertising for yourself driven by your own customers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the people who know to look for that tend to be very good prospects. If they come in on a powered by logo, they know what they're looking to do, and it's usually a pretty easy sale to close. Okay, so next feature is just this ability to switch between accounts is a biggie. We have lots of accounts on our side and certainly use this feature every day. And it's not until you don't have it that you really miss it. When we click this switch account option up in the top corner of our navigation, another box pops up that shows us all of our accounts. You see there's 822 accounts in here. And the alternative would be to have a username and login saved for all of them or in a spreadsheet or something, right? So we can, as long as we are a logged in, authorized reseller admin, we can pop into any of those accounts that we need to see what's going on or what they need help with if they've asked. It's a great feature. It's useful. From within the reseller admin, we can also customize accounts, and we really have full control over all of the features that are included in an account. More often than not, we activate them all. But as your own reseller, you have the option to charge for advanced accounts features like message rendering tests or inbox monitoring, conversion tracking, RSS content for recurring messages, local time zone delivery. More often than not, we turn them on. Paramount sort of chooses not to upsell account features, and instead we upsell the professional services involved in installing them or maintaining them or helping to support them. But we do have the ability to control them on like a minute level. We could even restrict an account's ability to import lists or maybe to export contacts or even to access their own deleted records. Lots of features that we can control down to a tiny level. And then, of course, we have the ability to export monthly usage. So with a one-click export, we have the ability to see all of the outbound traffic from our reseller account, broken down by account name, and that's going to include contacts and billing notes. It's going to show us all of the totals for emails sent, welcome messages sent, transactional messages sent per account. Then during account setup, we have the ability to choose different billing models that we can apply to different customers. And we could also assign sales reps, which is a great way. You get essentially an Excel sheet at the end of the month that we can sort by sales rep to calculate commissions due, or however you've chosen to do business. So those are some of the high-level account reseller features. And we wanted to look too at a few of our other sort of customer-facing features that are worth calling out in the Empower platform. I think that the place to start in talking about the Empower platform, the place I always start at, is segmentation. And it is the difference between static and dynamic segments. A static segment just being a list of subscribers, their event attendees or their newsletter subscribers, their donors or website signups. They might be a do not mail list that we use to exclude against a broadcast. Whereas a dynamic segment is a saved query. And that's a saved query that's going to execute and deliver a list at the time that it runs. So examples there might be lists of subscribers whose date joined was yesterday, right? That list is always going to be different every day that we look at that dynamic segment. Or anybody who has opened an email within the past 30 days is a dynamic segment. We could look for members who expire in exactly 7 days, would also be a constantly changing dynamic list of people. And we can use that with recurring messages, and we can really dive deep into some of these records. You'll see over here on the right, we're looking for an AOL name that has a birthday within 30 days of the past, and we're ignoring the year. So that would essentially give us, for whatever reason we would need them, any AOL subscribers who had a birthday in March or within the past 30 days anyway. This example shows that we can even dive into like the message level, where we're looking at people who've received a message in the campaign newsletter within the past 90 days who've opened it, right? So that would give us all of our newsletter openers from the past 90 days. Or we could dive in and just look at anybody who's opened any email in the past 90 or 180 or 960 days. So we can really dive in and build these dynamic segments and dynamic audiences that we can send individual broadcasts, or we can even just talk to them separately. Let me show you what I mean here. So we can apply those same filters, people who joined yesterday, or people whose expiration is within 7 days in the future, and we can apply those to dynamic content that displays and messages and is only seen by those dynamic segment members, right? So in this case, this is a regular newsletter that gets sent, but we might have an alert up top that only gets displayed to anyone whose membership expires within the next 7 days. And we could give them a link to renew now. And then we don't lose them as a subscriber or a member or whatever the model looks like. Similarly, we might talk to users who have just signed up. So folks who have joined within the past 14 days, maybe we give them a reminder that says, hey, thank you again for signing up. This is the type of newsletter you can expect from us on Tuesdays. Of course, you can unsubscribe anytime, click here, or manage your preferences if we want to soften that language a little. So there's a lot we can do with dynamic content, including modifying the subject and the sender and the email address. So we can, with one broadcast, we could, depending on whose list you're on, it could even come from a different sender or even be completely branded differently, depending on what list you're on. The logo in this could be a piece of dynamic content, and you might see a different logo than I would, depending on whatever rules we had set up. So there's a lot we can do with dynamic content, dynamic segmentation. And that dynamic segmentation is really the most powerful feature within our platform, in my opinion. So where does the message creation happen? We have a number of methods available for creating messages. One is our WYSIWYG editor. It's a sort of a standard what you see is what you get editor that puts a simple and familiar browser-based editor into the hands of your users who can go in and modify creative. We can see the sort of zoom in on the toolbar that the user has access to, in addition to sort of standard text formatting and inserting links. We have a couple other features like loading templates. One of the features of, as a reseller, you have full control over the email templates that are available to your subscribers or your customers. Of course, they can create their own templates within their accounts, but you can also create a whole library of templates that you make available to your users, or maybe, again, as an upsell. Out of the box, those templates that we have pre-built within the platform, widely tested, etc., might look something like this, but with minimal effort from a coding standpoint anyway. We could brand this to match logos and colors and fonts for users. And they could then, through the WYSIWYG, pull this template up and make whatever changes they needed to existing text here. And then this templating model can get more advanced. We have a few more advanced pieces that we can look at. Another way for us to send messages is with recurring messages. So recurring messages are email broadcasts that are often sent to dynamic segments, though not always, and are sent on some recurring schedule. So they might go out every day, they might go out every Monday, they might go out every third Thursday, depending on our requirement and the point of the email, right? Some of them might be welcome messages like this one that we send for Go Airport Shuttle. This is sent to anybody who uses their shuttle service and has a date traveled of yesterday. So our dynamic segment looks at a field called date last travel, and we look for anybody whose last travel date is 1 day in the past, and they get a thanks again for choosing Go. And here's a 10% off coupon for the next time you drive. Fairly straightforward, but a very effective way to talk to customers. This example is an RSS-fed newsletter. So this, all of this content lives in a WordPress site somewhere. We pull content from that WordPress site on a regular basis and push it out to their subscribers. You can see here that they're including some network ads from Power Inbox. Those network ads require an MD5 hash of the email address, which we're able to provide natively, which might make sense to some developers who are interested in that feature. And this says set up and it runs, and really without any interference, except sometimes they want to sell ads into these slots. And in most cases, you would log in and you would modify the HTML so that we have the sold ad going into this slot on a Tuesday, for example. In this case, what we do is we've actually integrated with Google Sheets. So their sales team just has to go in and modify the creative that is in a Google Sheets document. And if the Google Sheet doesn't include an ad, then it's just going to show the standard network ad instead. And that has really helped them. It just makes it a lot easier for their team to sell, and nobody has to touch the code, which is always a good rule of thumb. This is just an example of the types of sending patterns that we could choose for a recurring message, for it to send daily or every other day, or in this case, every second Wednesday, I guess, at 6:15 a.m. And then we have an option to even look at content freshness, which for XML is pretty exciting, because then we have a chance to actually look at like this was the lead story. And we want to make sure that that lead story contains at least one new piece of content since the last send, which means that if for whatever reason the website hasn't updated between sends, we're never going to send the same content twice, because this rule says make sure that this content is new, and if it's not, don't even send the message. It's a great feature, because once you turn them on, we have a number of these that have been running for years and still get the same types of engagement and click-through rates as when they started. That leads us into sort of a more advanced version of templating, content uploaders. Ben, I think we're moving along reasonably well. Should we look at our live version of the content uploader, do you think?
Yeah, let's go through it.
All right, cool. In this case, the content uploader essentially allows us to remove the human element from coding complicated HTML by allowing your users to edit like all of the content for their message from within an Excel spreadsheet, or really any XML. It could even be Google Sheets. But I'll show it to you working in Excel here. This is a sticky feature, because in our experience, sort of once people start using it, it's hard to stop because it's a great feature. Here, let me just make sure.
It's just too easy, right?
It is. Okay, great. So in this case, we have the APMA. This is actually some work that we did for another Empower reseller, the folks at Vertex. The APMA has a newsletter that they're building that talks about upcoming events, I guess. And so they can come in here and actually build sort of all of the pieces of their newsletter, like their headline and text. In this case, they like to choose from a couple of different layouts. This one's orange, but let's generate it quickly so I can show you what it looks like when we spit it out. So I'm just exporting this as XML, which is essentially just an XML version of all this data. And let me just. Oh, geez, sorry. I'm just going to have to log back in. I'm sorry. One second. Here, let me just pull this screen back up. I'm sorry. I just got logged out while we were on the call.
Yep. So really what this is going to allow him to do is, using a template within the tool, just upload that XML data and populate the content of the message. So then, the marketer is editing an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet instead of having to go through and weed through HTML and CSS to get the message to generate how they want it to. So, all right, go ahead, Greg.
And I am on my way. Sorry, guys. Just hopping into that account now. Here we go. All right. So let's just quickly hop into a draft message here. We have one set up for these guys, the national. And I'm just going to call this a basic test for our. Okay, and here we'll see that WYSIWYG editor. And one of our options here is to load content in via a template. And if we choose template, we can see all the templates that exist in this account. But in this case, we're going to use this one. And when we browse to a content uploader template, it asks us to browse to a data file. And in this case, I'm just browsing to that XML file that we just looked at. And then it automatically sort of takes all the data that is in that Excel file and applies it to this template, which is pretty quick and easy way to edit a message. So in this case, if we just modify this, change it to blue and make our welcome text, welcome to Disney World, and then maybe remove this button text and then add, let's say we'll just add one layer of content down here. There we go. And then I'm just going to re-export that as the same file. So if a user, if a user has fairly basic changes to apply to their creative, they can come in here and make them with the WYSIWYG editor. Of course, they could, this is a test. But we could also just re-browse to that data file and re-upload. And let me just show you how this content would change with that new data. And then you see our colors have changed to blue. Our welcome changed to Disney World. It lost that click through button. And then there was one extra section down here. So it really gives the user an ability to control their own creative without and like replicate sections within creative without having to dig through code, because ultimately it's the human intervention in the code that tends to go sideways. I think that our next slide here was to look at visual templates, which we could quickly look at here as well within the editor. I've been working on these just recently, just today and yesterday, in fact. If we go into visual templates, some really cool feature. I'm very impressed with it so far. And let me show you how these work. So what a visual template will allow us to do is to have a whole layout that a user can, again, access themselves. They can do a bunch of drag and drop editing without having to get their hands too dirty in code. So in this case, Ready to Go is an Australian rideshare company. And this is a template that we've been building for them. Let me show you how this will work. So in this case, I'm just going to drag some elements over here to build that email out. So we have a logo and a pre-header area. Let's grab some content and maybe pop a spacer in up top there. We could put a call to action right underneath. And in their case, they have an app that they like to show off. We can modify any of this text through the editor here. We could maybe trim that text down to just make it look a little shorter. We could modify images like here. We could look at image properties and browse to a new one within the server, or even upload our own. Modify links, etc. In this case, we might want to put another spacer down on the bottom here, but that spacer is white, so maybe we could change that so our background matches the creative, and maybe it's 50 pixels wide and high instead. And then we could just drag a footer down here too as well while we're at it. Here we go. And then if we go ahead.
I love watching the ease of use that you're showing. You've only been working with this new feature of ours for the past couple of days, and you're already flying.
Yeah, no. I dug into documentation yesterday and built this one just yesterday, and it's great. I mean, how easy is that? That's a simple way to build an email, and it would give the user sort of a chance to build their own, right? So if you come in here and save that creative, we could then just go back to our WYSIWYG editor and load it right in. It's using the same type of, using that same WYSIWYG that we used before. Should pop in here in a basic message. And in this case, we would browse to a visual template, and that would show us all the visual templates we have saved in our account. In this case, it was ready to go. Select that template, and it would load it right in here. And again, we can modify it. We can still use the WYSIWYG to make whatever changes we need to. You know, maybe we want to remove this moving people header and just trim it down. Maybe keep it simple. You know, so there we have it. It's a quick and easy way to build a clean, responsive email without having to dive into the dreaded HTML, which is where some of us prefer to live anyway. Yeah, and then that is it for our features here. I have, however, one more piece of top secret information that I just wanted to share with everybody. Again, just so you have something to take with you. In this case, this is a super top secret free download. This is a WordPress plugin that you might have seen in that template we were looking at. And it inserts a countdown to a date and time of your choice. You can get it here at pcg.email/countdown. I'm not looking for your email addresses or anything. It's just a zip file that you'll get. And for anybody familiar with WordPress, I would just say after installing, resave your permalinks, and it should work like a charm for you. So enjoy. If you have any questions about that or anything else, I'm more than happy to answer them, whether now or by email. But for now, I'll pass it back to Ben.
Thank you, Greg. I think you just did a great job of explaining, how Mapp is empowering agencies to be able to send billions of monthly emails. There are a few key features that we highlighted, like being able to manage all your clients from one admin dashboard. Going through that list of 822 accounts, as you mentioned, would be quite arduous without that switch account feature. And you really get ownership over the technology as well through the capability of white labeling the tool. That just really allows it to be your tech that you're presenting, even though you can let your customers know that that's Mapp in the background. It is now your technology that's being presented to them. And through dynamic segments, you're able to either put dynamic creative into your messages and also build out recurring messages that you can have the content change constantly so that you can continue to send maybe the same newsletter week after week or month after month. And as you mentioned, still get a consistent level of engagement from your users. And there's a number of different ways to build out those messages within the tool, and that really is there to provide ease of use for the end user, so that they don't have to go into the HTML and CSS if they don't want to. Some would like to jump into the code, but if they don't want to, they can use either of those options that we went through to be able to make those engaging emails. So just want to thank everyone for joining today. Greg, really want to thank you for presenting with us, Tammy for getting this set up. And with that, I'd like to open the floor up to any questions.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thanks, everybody. Also, we do have some questions, so I'll get right to it. The first one, which I think is actually really interesting, says, which of your side hustles or / segments is performing best? So back to that piece where you were talking about your side hustle.
The side hustle, yes.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. In terms of like the quote unquote easiest money, it's probably data appending and email hygiene, working with third-party vendors to do email validation, et cetera, for customers who are bringing us large, maybe cold files. But then there's also just the professional services side of things, and sort of done correctly, it should be a combination, I think, of all of those skills. But a lot of the ancillary services are just making sure that the customer is doing everything they can and should be doing. I think they're all important, but that the data appending side has some pretty good profit potential.
Cool. This one's a good one too. What kind of agencies or resellers are the best kind for this platform, Mapp Empower?
I don't know if there's a best customer. Just thinking about ours, they really run the gamut. Some of them, even some of our resellers, are relatively non-technical, but they have a bunch of accounts and customers that they're supporting. So it really can be everybody. The best customer is, of course, the ones who just set up and they go and we don't hear from them, just because they tend to be lower maintenance. But there's lots of potential with all types of different customers, I think.
Oh, that's great. Here's another one. Do you see a demand for deliverability services?
Yeah, for sure. Within the sort of the side hustles, I think that would be under sort of the campaign management. Deliverability, we at Paramount have a dedicated resource for deliverability, where we can step in and intercede if and when our customers run into delivery issues. Sometimes it's their creative, sometimes it's a wider block, sometimes it's just something that we have to help them work through. So sure, there's room for it.
Also, one more, and then I think we'll call it for today. Will a lot of your clients come back to you asking for these services once their initial email is set up? I mean, has that been a good sort of source for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that the setup is just the start, right? Just sort of getting the customer in the door does take a bunch of that sort of ancillary side hustle pieces in terms of getting them up and running and getting their templates built and working, getting some automation rolling for them. But sure, there's always room, even for the users that are essentially fully automated. We should still be modifying those templates occasionally, just from a deliverability standpoint. That makes sense to do. And also, always be testing, right? Just sort of, because there's always room for incremental improvement with performance and everything else. And the customers who understand that are the best customers. Mm-hmm. And we can help them understand that, I think.
Oh, great. Well, thank you again, Greg. It was really, really a dynamic presentation. And as always, thanks, Ben, for moderating and providing your color. I want to thank everybody in the audience for attending. And again, we'll be sending you a recording of this. So everybody have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.